The cop's finger twitched on the trigger, his eyes wild with panic, as if the black man in front of him was a ticking bomb. General Marcus Tate, 3 stars pinned to his shoulders, stared back, wondering if today's America would kill him for wearing his country's uniform. It was a blistering summer afternoon in Willow Creek, a sleepy Virginia suburb where picket fences and manicured lawns hid the kind of prejudice that festers and whispers. Marcus, a 52-year-old 3-star general, had driven into town to visit his sister, his dress uniform crisp despite the heat. He'd parked his rental sedan outside her house, stepped out, and reached for his phone to let her know he'd arrived. That's when Officer Daniel Harper, 26 and barely a year on the force, screeched his patrol car to a stop, leapt out, and drew his service weapon with a shout. "Hands up! Don't move!" Marcus froze, his phone still in hand, his mind racing through decades of survival instincts, not as a soldier in war zones, but as a black man in America. He'd faced insurgents in Fallujah, negotiated ceasefires in Kabul, but nothing prepared him for the raw terror of a young cop's trembling gun pointed at his chest. "Officer," Marcus said, voice steady as granite, "I'm reaching for my ID. I'm a lieutenant general in the U.S. Army." Harper's face twisted, disbelief warring with protocol. "Don't move," I said. "Drop the phone." His voice cracked, betraying his inexperience. The stars on Marcus's shoulders gleamed under the noon sun, but Harper didn't see Themer, didn't want to. To him, Marcus was just another suspect. A black man in a quiet neighborhood, a threat until proven otherwise. The radio on Harper's belt crackled with static, but no backup was coming yet. Just the two of them, locked in a moment that could end in blood. The street wasn't empty. A jogger slowed to a stop, her phone already recording. A mail carrier lingered by a mailbox, eyes wide. Across the road, a teenager on a bike whispered to his friend, "Yo, that's a general. He's got stars." But Harper didn't hear them. His world had narrowed to the man in front of him, the man who wasn't complying fast enough, who wasn't afraid enough. Marcus kept his hands raised, phone still in his grip, his mind calculating. He'd seen fear like this before, raw, unthinking, the kind that makes men pull triggers before they ask questions. "Son," he said, his voice low, almost paternal, "look at my uniform. Look at the stars. I'm not your enemy." Harper blinked, sweat beading on his forehead. The stars. He saw them now, 3 silver stars, unmistakable, pinned to the shoulders of a man who'd earned them through decades of service. His training screamed at him to maintain control, to secure the scene, but doubt crept in. Generals don't drive beat-up rentals. Generals don't visit places like Willow Creek. Do they? "Drop the phone," Harper shouted again, but his voice wavered. Marcus complied, letting the phone fall to the grass with a soft thud. He kept his hands up, his posture rigid, every muscle disciplined to avoid giving Harper an excuse. The jogger's phone was still rolling, capturing every second. The mail carrier was inching closer, murmuring, "That's General Tate. I saw him on the news." Harper's radio crackled again, this time with the dispatcher's voice. "Unit 12, report status." He didn't respond. His eyes darted from Marcus's face to the stars, then to the growing crowd. The teenager on the bike shouted, "Yo, he's a hero, man. Put the gun down." Marcus seized the moment. "Officer Harper," he said, reading the nameplate. "I've served this country for 30 years. I've buried soldiers who trusted me to bring them home. I'm not going to hurt you. Lower your weapon, and we can talk." The use of his name hit Harper like a jolt. His grip on the gun loosened, but he didn't lower it. You could be lying. People fake uniforms. I need to see ID." His voice was desperate now, clinging to procedure like a lifeline. Marcus nodded slowly. My ID's in my left breast pocket. I'm gonna reach for it. Don't shoot. He moved deliberately, fingers brushing the edge of his pocket, pulling out a leather wallet. Harper's gun tracked every motion, his breath hitching. The crowd held its collective breath. The wallet opened, revealing a Department of Defense ID card. Marcus held it up, the photo and rank clear as day. Lieutenant General Marcus Tate, U.S. Army. Harper's eyes widened, the reality sinking in. The stars were real. The man was real. And he, Daniel Harper, had just pointed a loaded gun at a 3-star general. For a moment, neither man moved. The jogger's phone kept recording. The teenager whispered, "Told you." The mail carrier shook his head, muttering about lawsuits. Harper's face flushed red, shame and fear warring in his expression. He lowered his gun, hands shaking, and holstered it. "I am sorry, sir," he stammered. "I didn't know." Marcus didn't relax. He'd heard apologies before, seen them dissolve into excuses. "You didn't know," he repeated, his voice cutting like a blade. "But you assumed." "Why?" Harper opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer, not one he could say out loud. The crowd was growing, more phones out, more voices murmuring. Marcus stepped closer, his presence commanding despite the absence of a weapon. "You saw a black man and drew your gun. You didn't see my stars. You didn't see my service. You saw a threat. Why?" The question hung in the air, heavy as the heat. Harper's jaw tightened, his eyes darting to the crowd, then back to Marcus. He wanted to run, to call for backup, to disappear. But Marcus wasn't done. "I've fought for this country," he said, his voice rising, carrying the weight of years. "I've bled for it. And today you made me feel like I don't belong in it." The jogger gasped. The teenager cheered. Harper looked like he'd been punched. He took a step back, his hand hovering near his radio, but he didn't touch it. I made a mistake," he said, barely audible. "A mistake," Marcus echoed, his tone softer now, but no less piercing. "Mistakes like this end lives, son. You need to do better." The standoff broke as Marcus's sister, Lena, burst out of her house, her voice sharp with fear. "Marcus, what's going on?" She ran to his side, glaring at Harper. "You pulled a gun on my brother? A general?" Harper flinched, the weight of his error growing heavier. Lena turned to the crowd, her voice carrying. "This is my brother, Lieutenant General Marcus Tate. He's served this country longer than that boy's been alive." The crowd erupted, some cheering, some jeering at Harper. The jogger uploaded her video, the caption already forming in her mind. "Cop pulls gun on black general. Must watch." Harper's radio crackled again, but he ignored it. He was alone now, surrounded by eyes and judgment. Marcus raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "Enough," he said. "This isn't about shame. It's about truth." He looked at Harper, his gaze steady but not unkind. "You've got a choice, officer. Learn from this or let it define you." Harper nodded, his throat tight. He couldn't speak. Marcus picked up his phone from the grass, dusted it off, and turned to Lena. "Let's go inside," he said. But before he walked away, he glanced back at Harper. "Do better," he repeated. As Marcus and Lena disappeared into the house, the crowd dispersed, still buzzing with adrenaline. Harper stood alone, his patrol car idling behind him. The jogger's video was already spreading, racking up views. By nightfall, it would be national news. Inside, Lena poured Marcus a glass of water, her hands shaking. "You okay?" she asked. Marcus nodded, but his eyes were distant. "I've faced worse," he said. But it doesn't get easier. Lena sat across from him, her voice soft. You didn't have to be so calm out there. You could have torn him apart. I wanted to, Marcus admitted. But that boy's not the problem. He's a symptom. Tearing him down doesn't fix what's broken. The story wasn't over. The video would spark protests, headlines, and think pieces. Harper would face an investigation, maybe a suspension. Marcus would be invited to speak on news channels, his face plastered across screens as the black general who faced down a cop. But for now, in the quiet of Lena's kitchen, Marcus sipped his water and wondered if the country he'd served would ever truly see him, not as a threat, not as a symbol, but as a man. The kitchen was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Marcus stared at the glass of water in his hand, the ripples catching the light from Lena's overhead lamp. He'd faced death before sniper fire in Iraq, IEDs in Afghanistan, but this was different. This wasn't a war zone thousands of miles away. This was home, or at least it was supposed to be. Lena broke the silence, her voice tight with anger. You're too calm, Marcus. That boy could have killed you. For nothing. Marcus set the glass down, his fingers steady despite the storm inside. He didn't see me, Lena. He saw what he's been taught to see. That's the fight we're in. Outside, the street was quiet again, but the world beyond was waking up. The jogger's video had hit X, racking up thousands of views in hours. Hashtags like General Tate and Willow Creek incident trended as comments poured in, some outraged, some defensive, others just memes. By evening, news vans were parked outside Lena's house, reporters clamoring for a statement. Marcus ignored them. He wasn't ready to be their headline. Not yet. Across town, Daniel Harper sat in the precinct's break room, his badge heavy in his pocket. His sergeant had pulled him off patrol pending an internal review. The video was everywhere, his face pixelated but unmistakable. His phone buzzed with texts from buddies, some supportive, some telling him to lawyer up. He hadn't meant for this. He'd just been doing his job, hadn't he? A black man reaching for something, a vague call about a suspicious person in the neighborhood. Protocol said secure the scene. Protocol said assume the worst. But protocol didn't account for stars on a uniform. It didn't account for the way Marcus's calm, steady voice had cut through his panic, exposing the assumptions he didn't even know he carried. Harper replayed the moment in his head, the gun in his hand, the crowd's murmurs, the realization that he'd aimed at a man who outranked every officer in the precinct. He felt sick. The next morning, Marcus woke to Lena's phone ringing off the hook. She'd muted it after the 10th call from a producer at CNN. They want you on air, she said, pouring coffee. Say it's a national conversation now. Marcus snorted, the sound bitter. Conversation. That's what they call it when they want ratings. He'd seen this before: outrage, headlines, then silence until the next incident. But this time he wasn't just a bystander. He was the story. By noon, he agreed to one interview, not with a network but with a local black-owned radio station. The host, a woman named Carla with a voice like warm honey, didn't sugarcoat her questions. General Tate, she said, you've served this country for decades. You've got 3 stars. How does it feel to have a gun pulled on you in your own sister's neighborhood? Marcus leaned into the microphone, his words measured but raw. It feels like betrayal, not just by that officer, but by a system that trains him to see me as a threat before he sees my service. I fought for this country, buried men and women who died for it. But yesterday, I was just another black man to him. The interview went viral, shared across platforms, dissected on talk shows. Some praised Marcus's restraint. Others called him naive for thinking his rank would protect him. On X, the debate raged. One post read, cop was just doing his job. General should have complied faster. Another fired back. 3 stars, 30 years of service, and he's still suspicious? Wake up. Harper heard the interview on his car radio, parked outside his apartment. He turned it off halfway through, unable to stomach Marcus's voice calm. So right, he hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those stars, gleaming like accusations. His sergeant had told him to stay off social media, but he couldn't resist. The comments were brutal.
Racist cop.
Trigger-happy rookie. Fire him. He wanted to scream that he wasn't a monster, that he'd just been scared, that he'd made a mistake. But who would listen? Days later, Marcus got a call from the mayor's office. They wanted a meeting, a chance to de-escalate the situation. Marcus agreed, but not for their sake. He wanted answers about Harper's training, about why a vague call about a suspicious person had escalated so fast. The meeting was tense, held in a sterile conference room with the mayor, the police chief, and a PR flack who kept checking her phone. General Tate, the chief began, "We're sorry for what happened. Officer Harper's been disciplined. Sensitivity training, desk duty for now." Marcus leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "Discipline isn't enough. That boy didn't pull a gun because he missed a training seminar. He pulled it because of what he's been taught to fear. Fix that or this happens again." The mayor nodded, promising reforms, but Marcus knew the script. Promises were easy. Change was hard. Still, he pushed. "I want to meet him," he said. "Harper. One-on-one." The chief hesitated. "That's unconventional." "So is pointing a gun at a 3-star general," Marcus shot back. Harper got the call that evening. His stomach churned as he drove to the community center where Marcus had requested the meeting. No cameras, no lawyers, just them. When he walked in, Marcus was already there, seated at a folding table, still in his uniform. The stars glinted under the fluorescent lights. "Sit," Marcus said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Harper sat, his hands clasped tight to stop the shaking. "I'm sorry," Harper blurted out. "I didn't know who you were. You didn't know," Marcus cut in, his voice sharp but not cruel. "But you assumed." "Why?" Harper swallowed, his mouth dry. "I got a call. Suspicious person, male, black, reaching for something. I reacted. It's what we're trained to do." Marcus leaned back, his eyes never leaving Harper's. "Trained to do. You're trained to see a black man and assume danger. You're trained to draw first, ask later. That's not instinct, son. That's conditioning." Harper wanted to argue, to defend himself, but the words stuck. He thought of the academy, the endless drills, the instructors hammering in officer safety first. He thought of the news, the stories of cops ambushed, the fear that hung over every shift. But he also thought of Marcus calm, unarmed, a general and the gun in his own hand. "I messed up," Harper said finally. I saw what I expected to see, not what was there." Marcus nodded, a flicker of something, maybe approval in his eyes. "That's a start. Admitting it. But what are you going to do about it?" Harper blinked, caught off guard. "Do." "You're not the first cop to make this mistake," Marcus said. "You won't be the last. But you've got a chance to change how this story ends. Not for me, not for the cameras, for the next person you pull over." The words hit harder than any suspension could. Harper looked down, his badge suddenly feeling heavier. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, almost a whisper. "Learn," Marcus said. "Listen. Talk to people who don't look like you. Question what you've been taught. And when you're back on the street, remember this moment. Remember what it felt like to be wrong. The meeting didn't fix everything, Couldn't. But it planted a seed. Harper went back to desk duty, but he started showing up at community forums. Awkward at first, listening more than he spoke. Marcus didn't stop either. He spoke at schools, at churches, telling his story not to shame Harper, but to show what's at stake when fear overrides reason. The video never stopped circulating. It became a touchstone, a flashpoint. Protests flared in Willow Creek, some calling for Harper's badge, others for systemic change. Marcus met with activists, not to calm them but to amplify them. This isn't about one cop, he told a crowd outside City Hall. It's about a system that makes these moments possible. We fix it together or we all lose. Months later, Harper was back on patrol, but he wasn't the same. He hesitated now, not out of fear but out of thought. He asked questions before drawing his weapon. He remembered Marcus's stars, the weight of his own mistake. It didn't erase what he'd done, but it changed what he would do. Marcus, too, carried the moment with him. He retired a year later, but not quietly. He founded a nonprofit, Stars of Valor, to train police and communities to bridge the gap between them. He didn't pretend it would solve everything, but it was a start. At the launch event, he invited Harper, who showed up, nervous but present. They shook hands, no cameras, no fanfare. Just two men trying to do better. The story didn't end neatly. The system didn't transform overnight. But Marcus's words echoed. This isn't about shame. It's about truth. And truth, however painful, was the only way forward. What do you think? Where does justice lie in this story? Share your thoughts on right, wrong, and the divides we face.